to another edition of BridgePoint Bonus. I'm Pastor Matthew, and we're so glad you tuned in to the BridgePoint Valparaiso YouTube channel. We exist to provide you content that will encourage you to be fully devoted followers of Jesus. In this current series, we're talking about being spiritually fit, and we're going over prayer, and we wanted to go over a bonus just to talk about the subject of fasting. Now you might say, why are we talking about fasting? Fasting is something that the people of God have done throughout history in order to see and experience spiritual breakthroughs. And one of the reasons why fasting is such an important subject is because fasting is something that we do physically that empties ourselves so that we would be reminded and empowered to be able to have the faith of God, that He would fill our hearts when we went through something that we had emptied ourselves of. Now, there's a lot of different ways that people have fasted. In the Old Testament, you'll see people fasting and not eating anything at all, and they'll dump ashes on their head in perhaps mourning or repentance. A lot of times people would fast when they were going through a particular difficult time of trouble, just saying, God, I can't do this without you. I'm just not even going to eat. I want to focus on you so much. And in many instances, people fasted before they made really difficult decisions or before they appointed new leadership for a special mission. There's a lot of different reasons why people would fast, but we want to be able to just take a moment and highlight and say, what is the spiritual deepening that your heart needs? What is the breakthrough that you're looking for? Have you considered fasting? Now, a couple cautions before we jump right into fasting. First is, what is fasting all about? Fasting is not dieting. A lot of people don't eat and they're going to fast and they say that therefore I will fast and lose weight. No, we're not about losing weight. We would much more suggest that if you're going to do fasting for health reasons, that's fine. But what we're talking about is fasting for the emptying of yourself of something to be able to invite God in through prayer to fill you. The other thing that we want to caution against is fasting and just expecting it somehow to magically or mystically produce in you a deeper spiritual life. That's not the way it works. When you're hungry, you eat food and it fills your stomach. When you're spiritually hungry, what you do is you empty yourself of something like food, or you deprive yourself of something, and in the place of that, you do the spiritual activity of prayer. Fasting is for the purpose of focusing your heart in faith on God. And what we want to do is encourage you to begin to consider and to begin to enter into fasting to be able to see your faith deepened and you experience spiritual breakthroughs, okay? Couple of thoughts on how you could fast. Well, if you look in the Bible, people, like we talked about earlier, people fast in all kinds of different ways. You see Jesus and Moses and people and like Daniel fasting for extended periods of time, like 40 days or 21 days. If you've never fasted before, we probably would caution you not to do that. That might be something that you might want to explore at a later time. If this is the first time you've considered fasting, consider something much more simple. Consider fasting perhaps for one meal. And instead of, say, eating lunch on Monday, you choose not to eat lunch, and during the time that you would have eaten lunch, you spend that time in prayer. Or maybe you want to consider fasting for a day and see how that goes. We encourage people to consider fasting from food, but not from water or things like coffee and tea that they're regularly used to. I think that will really help you. That's just a helpful tip. That's not something that's like commanded in the Bible, but it's these things you want to be thinking about as you enter into the process of fasting to see yourself deepened spiritually. Another thing that you could consider fasting from is maybe something that doesn't necessarily draw you closer to God, or something that you really like, and you say, if I stop doing that, then every time I think about that or every time I want that, I'll use that time to fast. So for example, you could fast from social media. You could fast from entertainment forms like music or television or a particular show that you like to watch. There's all kinds of different ways you can fast. You could fast from a particular specialty item like chocolate, or from something like beer or alcohol, that's a part of your regular life, you could separate that out from your life and say, instead of doing that, I'm going to spend that time in prayer. And what we want to do is see you incorporate fasting into your spiritual life and see us as a community incorporate fasting into our spiritual life, to see our faith deepened and to see spiritual breakthroughs that come from God in His power and in His effort. So if you enjoyed this video, we encourage you to click the like button. We encourage you to share it on various platforms of social media. And until the next time, we look forward to seeing you. And until then, keep your eyes on Jesus and let's keep following Him together.